Hola, mi gente. Welcome to another episode of the Money Chisme podcast. And this month, I kind of wanted to shift gears from a little bit of talking of real estate investing all the time and talk more of like the business side. And so today, I have with me Lilly Hernandez from transactioncare.com to share her own entrepreneurship journey. So, hola, Lilly. Thank you so much for joining me on the Money Chisme podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for reaching out. I'm excited. This is my very first interview. I have a podcast myself, but being in the hot seat feels a little different. I'm not gonna lie. Like as excited as I am, I'm still a little nervous. But my name is Lillian Hernandez, but you can call me Lily, like the flower. We are learning and growing together. I like to say that. And I'm born and raised and fortunate to still live in San Francisco, California. I'm an Aries, business owner,
Mhm.
transaction coordinator, podcast host, YouTuber, content producer, Beyhive member. Shout out to Beyonce if you're listening. Full-time auntie, and just so much more. I've worked in real estate since 2004, just wearing many different hats.
You are a transaction coordinator and you've been doing this type of work for, quite a while from what I gathered.
I had
Mhm.
no interest in real estate at all. I didn't know much about real estate other than owning a home, right? It started as a part-time job, honestly, in college, where I just wanted to be able to afford lunch and CDs. This is when CDs were in. And my friend, he was supposed to take this interview and he called me one day. He's like, "Hey, I can't make this interview. Can you go for me?" And I was like, "What?" Yeah, he was like, "Aren't you looking for a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I didn't apply for the job you're about to go interview for. Why would they let me?" He's like, "Don't worry about it, just go."
Mhm.
I go in, I get the job, and I'm basically the office quote unquote gopher. Like whatever they need, I go get it. Front desk, answering phones, filing papers. This is when people had filing cabinets full of papers and but how I got into transaction coordination or TCing, two of the employees that were working there
Mhm.
were the office transaction coordinators. But they were working side by side, managing the whole office. And I ended up uh, gravitating more towards their department because it was the busiest. So I was getting trained without knowing I was getting trained to do this job. Out of the blue, I went on like summer vacation, came back, and they were like, "Oh, we quit." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And they're like, "Yeah, we're leaving." Like not even a 2 week notice, nothing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very much like we're quitting. And something in me was like, "Well, I'll do it. I'll take the job." Because now I was struggling with college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I
Mhm.
just knew this is also um a different time. But the College Dropout album was out by Kanye West, and I was a huge fan of his, and that album like influenced me because I was playing it I was the sophomore 3 years ain't picked a career like how he said it.
I changed that was me. I changed majors so many times.
Right. So I was like, I don't want to waste my money or use the money I'm about to earn to pay for an education that is not working for me right now. So I'll just
Mhm.
pause college and take this full-time job. And they had to push and fight for me to get the job. And eventually I got it.
Mhm.
So I became the in-house full-time transaction coordinator. And I don't blame them for not wanting to hire me right away because I only had about a 5 minute training,
Oh, wow.
like no joke. Now I'm not even exaggerating. Normally I'll exaggerate just for the theatrics of things, but
Yeah.
I remember sitting at this desk being trained for a good 5, maybe 10 minutes, and them saying, "No, you got it, right? You got it. We trust you."
Oh, wow.
And these are the people that were quitting. And one of
Oh,
them, one of them already stopped showing up. So I was down to one person to train me.
a lot of people haven't heard of what a transaction coordinator is, especially like me. Like when you popped up on my For You page, and that's when I found out what transaction coordinator was. So what is a transaction coordinator?
I actually have the definition of it in front of me. So let me read the formal definition and then I'll give you my definition of it.
Okay.
So, what is a transaction coordinator? It's a person who assists the agent or broker in the processing of the real estate file, gathering all information, paperwork, and following up with the contractual items, putting together the final broker file of the real estate transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Seems simple, to the point, right? So you're just kind of facilitating the back end of the file. But it's not as simple as one may think. From contract to close, you're basically managing the file. So for anyone out there that has ever, say, purchased a home or sold their home, you know that there are mountains of papers that you have to
Yes.
sign, initials every day. It's almost like every day you're signing a new disclosure, a new report, inspections, all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a TC, we kind of come in, and I want to make a quick note is that there's a difference between an assistant and a TC.
Mm-hmm.
The two can coincide, but they are two different jobs. It could be the difference between go pick up my cleaners and audit my file. So for anyone out there, just know that from my point of view and from many other TC's point of view, an assistant and a TC are not the same. Well, if you're doing this as your own business, you come in and you're hired by a realtor or a brokerage to manage the file from contract to close, from the listing side to the sales side. I'm only going to focus on that, but you can also do it for rentals and leases and things like that, commercial real estate as well. But I just want to focus on residential for now because that's what I mostly prioritize.
Oh my God, that's so much paperwork. I can imagine like the real estate agent and, to know that it's because of transaction coordinators that are like, kicking ass and helping them out, making sure everything gets done and in a timely manner and correctly.
They give the realtors a lot more time as well
Mm-hmm.
because we're managing all this paperwork. Technically, realtors don't have to work with a transaction coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an additional service for protection, for liability purposes, risk management. I have to be aware of laws, regulations, city and county compliances. So it's not required to be licensed or certified. I got my license in the state of California in 2016 or 2017. So I had been working in real estate as a TC in-house for many, many years. Without a license, and you could still be a TC without a license. You just have certain restrictions because you have many parties involved. You have escrow, you have the buyer's agent, the listing agent, lenders, family members, friends, people, just like there's so many people involved in the transaction, right?
So as a TC, you're coordinating with like the realtor, the escrow company. Are you with the buyer or seller, or
I don't work specifically with lenders in terms of making sure the loans or appraisers and doing all of like that, the number crunching and things like that. But as a TC, I mainly come in and say, hey, lender, what's the status of the loan? Has it cleared? All of that stuff. Like, what's the deal with the money, right? Like, what's going on with the money? Realtors that have longevity in this game use a transaction coordinator. The services can vary depending on how you want to run your business as a TC. But the overall scope of work is to ultimately keep things in compliance. I'm doing a lot of follow-up and just reminders, touching base, like, hey, buyer, just wants friendly reminder that your deposit is due tomorrow. Quick backtrack. I quit my job in 2018 to do full transaction coordination full time.
Already went into the next question, which was
perfect.
like how you ended up, quitting your job.
I knew I wanted to eventually quit. I just didn't know how. I didn't know when. I didn't know why. I just knew I was done working at that office, and that just working a 9-to-5 period just wasn't for me. And it was a friend of mine that I used to work with at the office that he changed brokerages, and he called me randomly and said, hey, I need a TC. They're allowing me, they're giving me a special pass to use anyone I want, because I told them I didn't want to use the in-house one. And it was just taking that one call that changed the rest of my life, because when he first called, I got everything, every insecurity like rushed forward and was ready to just say no. Right? Because I was like, oh, I can't do that. I'm working a 9-to-5, and what if they find out? And I don't even know why I'm whispering now. I'm like,
you still have that like trauma.
I'm still traumatized from that whole event, because I was working, like I said, at this office as a TC, I was an office manager, marketing, front desk, admin,
Mhm.
part-time, full-time, part-time, full-time, because I was also laid off during the 2008 recession. And okay, so little background, I stayed at the same office as
Uh-huh.
well. You know, I started this job when I was like 19 going on 20, or I had just turned 20. It was like I was really young,
Mhm.
and it was all I knew.
I've been in the Navy for like 12 and a half years. And
Mhm.
and so I joined when I was like 23. And so
Wow.
ever since then, that's all I've known. And
Yeah.
so by the time I get out, I go back to being a regular person. And it's like,
You know, during the layoff, I tried to go back to school. I got into event promoting, which was something I always wanted to do, but then the
hmm
money ran out.
hmm
And there was an opening back at the same company. And I had been
Oh, wow.
applying to different jobs, but they had an opening again for a TC. So of course I was like, this is convenient, it's easy.
Yes.
I had already dropped out of college. Thanks, Kanye. Or no thanks. So now I'm back at, you know, where I started, but with somewhat of a fresh perspective. But within that gap of me not working there, I was able to, you know, do event promotions for DJs and venues and parties. I had a radio show at the college, local city college. Shout out to San Francisco CCSF, City
hmm
College of San Francisco. And then my friend calls me later down the line about being
hmm
TC. But this time I was like, okay, I don't want to squander these opportunities or miss some blessing that I'm supposed to get, even if I don't understand it, right?
hmm Definitely the idea that you get like these little hints from like the universe or whatever, like pushing you
Yeah.
towards a different path. Because that's what I've been feeling, except I'm stuck for another 2.5 years. Because I'm like a military, so I'm still have
Oh,
the
gotcha.
contract. I have to pay back my time.
So when he called me at the same time, I eventually said yes. And I was like, I'll do it. I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, but I'll figure it out.
Uh-huh.
This is happening for a reason. I'm going to do it.
Oh wow. So you were doing the office management job plus TC and then TC for your friend on the side.
Yeah. Like mid 2017,
Uh-huh.
um, my office randomly made me join LinkedIn. And the reason and I was like, I don't want to do that. They're like,
Uh-huh.
we need an online presence and we need to show that we have employees here, blah, blah, blah. But because of that, this brokerage had reached out to me
Uh-huh.
and they were like, hey, we're looking for a transaction coordinator. Can we set up a meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, I'm totally committed. I almost said no to my friend who wanted me to be his TC on the side. I tell my manager above me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, hey, this company wants to interview me, but I don't want to go. But I just wanted to be honest with you and tell you what's going on. But they
Mm-hmm.
reached out to me on LinkedIn. So, you know, I'm still traumatized from being fired and
Yeah.
still that insecure kid that didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. But I always knew it would have to be something with business,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And the first time I heard the word entrepreneur was from this DVD box of Bone Thugs and Harmony. Busy Bone kept
uh,
talking about entrepreneurship. I was like
uh,
13, 14. It was the first time I heard that word. So I was also that kid that sold candy at lunch, you know. So
oh wow.
I always had that entrepreneurial spirit, but I just didn't know how it was going to manifest. Went through the whole interview process. My lunch with them was like 2.5 hours. It ended up not working out.
Uh-huh.
They were like, oh, well, we're actually not looking for a transaction coordinator. We just got the title wrong. So we're sorry, but we will keep
Uh,
you in mind if something comes up. And the beginning of 2018 hits. And within the same week, this is like right after New Year's. So
mm-hmm.
January 2018, um, my mom gets diagnosed with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma goes into the hospital with congestive heart failure.
Oh wow.
And the reason I say this is because I'm very close with my family. I grew up in a Mexican and Samoan household.
Mm-hmm.
So family is like very important to me. It's ingrained in me. It's one of my
Mm-hmm.
values, you know. So when anything that serious happens to family, everything must stop.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, what can I do? How can I help? You know, especially something, you know, as big as like cancer and like heart failure. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
scary. And I was raised by both of them. You know what I mean? And so basically both my moms are like facing this serious thing. So I go back to my office
Mhm.
after finding all of this out, and I say, hey, I just got some serious news. It wasn't bad news, but it was serious news.
Mhm.
And it's important for me to be present for them. So is there any way that I could possibly work from home uh, while I still work here? And
Mhm.
I don't need to work from home every day. I just need once a week. Even that's negotiable. Um, let me know what you think. And I was very transparent and honest of like what was going on. And I'm every time I've asked them for something, they've given it to me.
Uh-huh.
You know, not just like, oh yeah, go ahead, but with, you know, conversation and communication, all that.
Mhm.
But this time around, mind you, I'm the office manager, TC, I had my own office. They started to like demote me.
What?
They took my office away,
Wow.
moved me back to the front desk position. And then I started like getting in trouble for like little things. And then I requested, you know, a meeting with them to give them my proposal because they asked me to write a proposal.
Uh-huh.
It took them 3 weeks to get back to me. And
Wow.
they were hardly coming, the owners were hardly ever coming into the office. So I was just like, what is going on? Like, and I keep getting in trouble for not washing dishes. I don't get it. This isn't my job. It was so weird. It was like little random things like that. But again, it's like God in the universe is like trying to tell me something.
Yeah.
So I finally have my meeting with the owners. He basically just called me a seat filler
Wow.
and that I need to be in the office to make it look busy and
What?
that you cannot work from home. He's like, we'll give you a raise, but you can't work from home. Their daughter
Uh-huh.
was the other TC at the office, but
Uh-huh.
she worked in a completely different state.
Oh.
And I had known this family for almost half my life at this point,
Uh-huh.
thinking I was just as much family, right? You know, just like
Yeah.
that mind tricks. And now that my actual family is in trouble and I'm stepping up to help in any way, shape, or form, because I just wanted to be available for doctor's appointments, rides, whatever it was needed.
Mhm.
And it wasn't like I was asking for a day off. I was asking for to be able to work from home.
Mhm.
I was like, make me a 1099. I don't care. I just need to be able to work from home. I was very hurt. I was
Yeah.
very hurt. So I started packing every day. I took little things home so it didn't look obvious
Mhm.
until my whole desk was empty. Because I was like, well, I'm not going to quit right away. So for
Mhm.
anyone out there considering quitting their job, this is what I did, right? But this is 2018. Before I quit my job in January, I made up my mind,
Mhm.
but I did not tell anyone. I came home and cried that same day because I was
Uh-huh.
so hurt and sad.
Yeah.
Now, like the reality was starting to hit me. Like, oh my God, they don't want me there. 2, I don't want to be there.
Mhm.
3, what am I going to do? You know, like there's no other opportunities. No joke. The next day, I'm busy all day. I barely even check my phone at lunch. I'm leaving work.
Uh-huh.
I had a voicemail. Remember that interview I took off of
Mhm.
LinkedIn? It was the broker, the owner of the
Oh
company.
wow.
Left me this long voicemail, but all I heard was the first 3 seconds. Hey Lillian, it's da from this company. Remember me? We have an actual transaction coordinator position opening up, and we thought of you first.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to work from home.
That's
I was like,
what you
click, hang up. What? Hello.
calling.
I called them back. I called her back so quick. I didn't even finish the rest of the voicemail,
Mhm.
but I still have it.
Yeah.
For privacy reasons, I won't replay it, but
Yeah.
I kept it. But I just heard, but you have to work from home. You're 1099. I was like, done. I'm quitting my job
Mhm.
today. I ended up not quitting that day because I was like, well, my 1 year anniversary is in March.
Uh-huh.
And that means I'm going to get a raise and an extra bonus. And then my vacation resets. So that's 2 weeks of pay.
Uh-huh.
Plus, if I work from February to the end of March, that's 2 extra months and a bonus for me to save.
Yeah.
Just in case this doesn't work out. I have
Mm-hmm.
extra savings. What was the date? February 27th, because I actually just did a 5-year anniversary a podcast on it.
Oh.
Was the official date I said I quit to my company.
Mm.
And instead of doing 2 weeks, I just closed out the month of March. And long story long, but now short, that is how I quit my job to start entrepreneurship and being a TC.
Mm-hmm.
Just working for myself, starting it as a business. I had no business experience prior to that, other than selling candy at school, being a little hustler at lunch,
I like that idea that you just take the leap of, faith that it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And so like, how was that, I guess, that first year of entrepreneurship for you? Like, what were, I guess, your biggest obstacles throughout that time?
Oh, I love this question because the first year of business, financially,
Mm-hmm.
the best. Mentally, emotionally, the worst. I had no boundaries. So
Mm-hmm.
when I basically just traded my 9 to 5 for a 24/7 at this point,
Mm-hmm.
because I had no experience and I didn't take a break in between. So for anyone, just a little pro tip, if you plan on quitting your job, give yourself mental space to process what you just did and what you just let go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, especially if you've been at a job for over 5 to 10 years, your body has to process all of what you just experienced and the
Mm-hmm.
trauma and letting go. And I lost weight after, because I was just like, I wasn't stressed anymore, like
Mm-hmm. That's how I
our,
feel it's gonna be for me. Like, because I'm just stressed over here and like feeling stuck. So hopefully
yeah,
that's me too.
yeah. So my
Mm-hmm.
start date was basically April 1st
Mm-hmm.
at the time. And my last day was March 31st.
Oh wow.
And even within March, they had given me files. Again, I'm whispering, I'm still traumatized. So I was side hustling, working my 9 to 5, mentally preparing myself to quit, making sure I had insurance, making
Mm-hmm.
sure I had insurance, errors and emissions insurance, which is what I need as a TC to
Mm-hmm.
cover myself. Budgeting all these things. I had to buy a laptop. I had to buy equipment, so the first year was very much me trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no boundaries. So I was saying yes to everything that came my way. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we have a new client. We have a new team. They're yours. Okay. Okay. Yes. So instead of being present, so at this point, my mom is cancer free. My grandma's doing a lot better, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to work from home.
Yeah.
I started like the second quarter of 2018 fresh start. It was weird. It took me a while to get comfortable. Just being able to work it from home in my sweats. And I was constantly getting in trouble for wearing my kicks to work. And they were very much, dress code, like formal.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm not doing any of that. I was such a rebel. And it proved that I wasn't meant to be confined into someone's, business like that. So I burnt out very quickly my
Mm-hmm.
first year. And that was because I didn't take the time to figure out, why am I doing this? What am I doing it for?
Mm-hmm.
How do I want it to? I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have I didn't know who my ideal customer was. I was taking on people that were jerks. I was taking on people that were too nice. I was taking on
Mm-hmm.
people that loved calling me at 6 o'clock in the morning every day to talk about their life. I was working around the clock. So at that point, I think for a solo TC, the average number that one can manage, and I don't want to speak for all TCs, but I just say in your first year, I think average number is around 20 or 30
Mm-hmm.
that one can manage on their own and still be mentally sane, right?
Uh-huh.
And still have a personal life and all that stuff. So I just remember, like, even just sitting in the room with my grandma with my laptop in front of me, just my head down again. So it's like that same life, but now just at home.
Yeah, that boundary, that line of knowing when to like stop working kind of just got blurred
It got
because you're
blurred because,
working from home.
yeah, and I'm still programmed. It's like that 9 to 5 lifestyle. So I
Uh-huh.
was like, oh my God, I'm going to be late for work when no one was checking for me. I didn't have a time sheet to, submit.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to like shake all that. That took about a month and a half to like
Mm.
to. I mean, being home, I got used to very quickly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't have to wear a bra. Oh, done. And that
That
was actually
always to be the
on,
best part.
yeah, I actually had written like a somewhat of a manifesto
Mm-hmm.
prior to all of this even happening. I found it later. I don't know where it is now, but one of
Mm.
the top things is like, I don't want to wear a bra to work. That was like one of the main reasons like I wanted to quit my job. It was, yeah, I want to be able to work with my sweats and all that. So I remember 4 or 5 months in, and we're
Uh-huh.
driving to my nephew's little league game. My parents live across the bay, like 45 minutes away from San Francisco. So I was at their house on the weekend. We drove into the city, and I took my laptop with me, and I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in the back of the van, and all of a sudden, I just feel my whole arm like lock up and start to tingle.
Oh no. Yeah.
And then I started to feel like dizzy,
Uh-huh.
but I'm still like typing and like looking down. And I'm like, oh no, I think I'm getting car sick.
Mm-hmm.
And then like even like my breathing started to change and all these things. And it was that moment that made me realize like, okay, I'm doing this all wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because one, I'm not enjoying this whole experience. I'm not making it my own. It's taking over my life, because now going back to like an average TC manages around 20 to 30 files alone.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing like 90 to 100.
Oh my God. Per month?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Listings and sales, not all
Okay.
closing, but a combination of like both, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my first year was messy, but financially it was beautiful. But the
Mm.
stress I put myself under was not worth it. So after that event, after that weekend, I like had a like serious talk with myself, like
Uh-huh.
legit with myself. I was just like, this can't be. What are we gonna do? And I didn't know anything about scaling businesses. I didn't know anything about hiring an assistant, because to me, I still have scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still have that mindset too.
Like if I say no to anything, they're gonna fire me, trauma. I'm gonna lose out on money, more trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I was hoarding. I was like hoarding all of these transactions and all of these teams and these realtors. So that was the first time I kind of reached out and asked for help and was talking to her. And I was so scared they were gonna fire me
Oh.
and say, like, oh, you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen. Like, but it was the complete opposite. She was like, oh my God, that's too much. Like she
Uh-huh.
reassured me and was like, how are you doing this all on your own? I was like, I don't know. Lots of tears, no sleep, and like panic attacks and all this stuff. And she was like, no, 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 no. Like if you want to let go of some teams, we'll I'll give them to someone else. And that was kind of hard to wrap my mind around. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just ready for like a break, just like
Yeah.
space to breathe, right? Um, but after that, I, was able to kind of catch my breath, and I was no longer drowning. Now it
Mm-hmm.
was just more like it was like treading in water. I wasn't like drowning, but I also wasn't like floating with ease and like comfort. It was
Yeah.
just like, okay, I have a steady flow of business, things are good. Um, I'm gonna keep at this. And that was my first year. My grandma ended up passing away
Mm.
around April. Actually, May, beginning of May. So like a year and a month into doing it, um, that was the whole point. I was like, I just want to be with my grandma,
Yeah.
my family, and be close. And I was so grateful to have that year there with her, because I would have had so many regrets if I wasn't able to like do that,
Yeah.
and it just really made me realize like how important it is to stand up for yourself if you have that control and that power in that
Yeah.
moment, and um if I'm not bound to anything at the moment, I can get out of it at any time,
Mm-hmm.
or at least be working on something else. and not waiting for an opportunity to come to me.
Mm-hmm.
Much like, you're starting already before, you're
Yeah.
not waiting 2.5 years. Like,
Yeah.
look at, who knows what progress you'll have in 2.5 years that may allow you to quit sooner.
That's why, like, I wanted to kind of like focus and start bringing some entrepreneurs because, like, it's awesome to hear like someone's story and how um they went from like doing the 9 to 5 and then they realize like, okay, this is not what I want, and then like their mindset shifts.
It's just like that power. Like once you finally like get aligned with yourself and who you are, and what you like, your purpose, or if you believe in that stuff, it's just everything that was so heavy just starts to disintegrate and melt
Yeah.
away and doesn't seem as scary anymore. So I talk about all this stuff on my podcast. The podcast, I also do interviews as well, and in order to get other people's stories. Transactioncarepodcast.com. And my whole goal with the podcast is to just demystify the business of real estate, one episode at a time, from my point of view, as well as other voices within the real estate industry. If you go to tccarepackage.com and use the code CHISME, CHISME, you can get 15% off at checkout on your whole purchase. So for everyone listening, just for your audience, you guys get 15% off.
Oh, awesome. That
Everything is transaction care.
yes.
And my name is Lilly. You can find me on social media. I'd love to connect.
Thank you for coming and sharing your journey. And you already said all your socials, so I'll make sure to link that in the description. And then yeah, I guess that's it. And I'll see everyone in the next episode.